There are two kinds of fuel your body can run on. Your body can either use carbs for energy or access your fat and use it for energy. It's your choice.
You can choose to run your body on carbohydrates, including sugars and starches, or fats, and it's your choice. If you quit eating carbs, sugars, and starches, your body is forced to use an alternative fuel source, fat. Burning fat produces substances called ketones that provide all the energy you need to fuel your body and your brain.
Insulin essentially acts as a lock that gets clamped down on all of our fat stores and prevents us from using our stored fat as energy. But when we restrict carbohydrates and we can therefore bring the insulin levels down, the locks come off. And all of a sudden we have access to all of our fat stores for energy.
When your body uses fat as fuel for energy, your body is in a regenerative healing mode. When your body uses carbs for energy, it is in a deteriorating mode.
One way to think of carbs is they are like kindling on a fire. They burn quickly and then go out, dropping your blood sugar and creating severe cravings, the physical signal that your body needs more fuel. To keep your metabolism burning, you must constantly eat more, and then you crash, and then you eat more, and then you crash.
Rambon Jan, a 15-year-old boy, has been meditating in dense jungle without food or water for 10 months.
The longest a person can go without food has been documented as being around 2.5 months before you die of starvation. It goes against what I know about how the body works, about the nutrition that you need.
A doctor in Ahmedabad, India, has contacted us after witnessing the boy on television. He says that his team have made a discovery that could finally solve so many questions. Dr. Shah's most famous case is Prahlad Jani, a holy man who claims he has not eaten or drunk anything since he was 12.
I haven't eaten anything, not even now, even though I'm 80 years old. I can meditate for 3, 8 or 12 hours or even months.
Prahlad Jani recently spent 10 days in observation.
They took blood samples from me 3 times a day, morning, afternoon and evening. They checked my kidney, brain and put machines all over my body. They were trying to find out which factors made my body work. They put machines inside my body also.
He was not given any food or water, and even when he was allowed to take a bath, the quantity of water was measured before and after to make sure nothing was lost.
As I said, after 10 days, the parameters were all normal. We studied his hematology, and whatever studies you can think of, we could do it.
I will live up to approximately 1,000 to 5,000, maybe even 10,000 years with this kind of body.
That there was no food or water given to this man, that he did not pass urine or stool, and even he did not dribble urine. After a few hours, the urine would appear, some fluid would appear in the bladder, and again it would disappear.
Modern medicine tells us that an average human can only survive for 4 days without water. While confined, Prahlad Jani incredibly lasted 10 days under observation.
60 years without water or food or energy? I simply don't believe it. That's impossible.
I find it fascinating and absolutely incomprehensible. It's completely beyond my imagination.
I was doing his sonography twice a day for 7 days. Morning, evening. And there was ups and downs. One time it is a 400 ml, then 200 ml, 300 ml urine. But at the end of the study, gradually there was no urine in his urinary bladder. He was claiming that he is absorbing the urine in his body, which was difficult to explain as far as the science is concerned.
We did have a protocol which included complete blood count, ESR, renal function test, endocrinal test, liver function test, and all X-rays including whole body CT scan.
Surprising part was all his organs were normal, morphologically. His chest was clear, kidneys, liver, spleen, everything was normal. Everything was normal and there was no even changes because of the age.
I would have said, I don't believe it. For 10 days he didn't urinate, pass stool, or have anything to drink or eat. And they conducted rigorous laboratory tests on him. One would expect extremely high levels of uremic waste products. This is an absolute bombshell.
We've been observing Ram Bonjan continuously in the jungles of Nepal for 86 hours. In that time, we've not seen him take any food or fluid or show any signs of dehydration. An average human should be just a few hours away from death.
With a prolonged deficiency of food and water, your brain is going to lack the glucose, you're not going to have enough fluid in your system.
On day 4, that confusion will get worse. You may start fitting, your body is going into kidney failure, and ultimately the person dies of dehydration.
To rule out foul play within the secure inner enclosure, we defy the committee and enlist Prem Lema, Ram's oldest friend and carer, to get a closer look. After a thorough search inside the tree and the ground area surrounding Ram, there's nothing suspicious. No food pipes buried or supplies hidden. After 96 hours of filming, Ram has defied modern science by continuing his meditation and remaining alive.
We fast patients anywhere from 5 to 40 days in an environment of complete rest. And we're admitting about 1,500 patients a year right now. It looks to me like you're going to be a good candidate for what we do.
People can survive on water alone with no supplements for days and even weeks. When we deprive our body of food, we switch over from burning glucose as the primary source of fuel to burning fat in a process called ketosis. A growing body of research suggests that this is especially effective in fighting diseases that stem from dietary excess, like high blood pressure and type 2 diabetes.
Breakfast of champions.
What's the difference between eating less food and eating no food? Well, let's look at two different situations. In 1944, a study called the Minnesota Starvation Experiment was conducted and was designed to understand the effects of caloric restriction on the body in order to gain some knowledge that would help people starving in the aftermath of World War II. 36 healthy men with an average height of 178 centimeters, about 5'10", and an average weight of 69.3 kilograms or 153 pounds were selected. For 3 months, they ate a diet of 3,200 calories per day. Then, for 6 months, they ate only 1,570 calories. However, caloric intake was adjusted to attempt to have the men lose 1.1 kilograms per week, meaning some men got less than 1,000 calories per day. The foods given were high in carbohydrates, things like potatoes, turnips, bread, and macaroni. Meat and dairy products were rarely given. During the 6 months, the men experienced profound physical and psychological changes. Everyone complained that they were too cold. One subject talked about having to wear a sweater in July on a sunny day. The subject's body temperatures dropped to an average of 95.8 degrees Fahrenheit. Physical endurance dropped by half, and strength showed a 21% decrease. The men experienced a complete lack of interest in everything except for food, which they were obsessed with. They were plagued with constant and intense hunger. There were several cases of neurotic behavior like hoarding cookbooks and utensils. 2 participants had to be cut from the experiment because they admitted to stealing and eating several raw turnips and taking scraps of food from garbage cans. At first, the participants were allowed to chew gum, until some of the men began chewing up to 40 packages a day. Now, compare all this to the case of Angus Barbieri, a Scottish man who in 1965 fasted for over 380 days straight. That is, he took in no food whatsoever, nothing but water, black coffee, and straight tea for just over a year. He lost 276 pounds, going from 456 pounds to 180. A case report published by the Dundee University Department of Medicine in 1973 said, "The patient remained symptom-free, felt well, and walked about normally." And prolonged fasting in this patient had no ill effects. There were no complaints of mind-numbing hunger, and he kept the weight off. For several years, his weight stayed around 196 pounds. This, of course, is not a perfect comparison. With the case of Angus, there's only one subject, and his starting weight was drastically higher compared to those in the Minnesota experiment. However, it does illustrate some very interesting points about just how different of a physiological response you can get from fasting, that is, eating nothing, compared to eating less, or caloric restriction. Dr. Jason Fung, a Toronto physician specializing in kidney disease and author of the Obesity Code, says that compared to fasting, caloric reduction will result in less weight loss, more lean mass loss, i.e. more muscle loss, and more hunger. Let's start by talking about hunger. Because the body is having a hard time using its fat for fuel, it will do a couple things. One, it will simply slow down metabolism to preserve energy. In the Minnesota starvation experiment, the subject's metabolism dropped by 40%. Their bodies didn't have access to its stored energy, and their restricted calorie diets didn't provide much fuel, so there's no choice but to slow down the metabolism. Ironically, in the case of fasting, as Jason Fung points out, metabolism actually goes up.
If you don't do anything about your insulin and just reduce your calories, your metabolism goes down. But what happens during fasting? Well, here's a study of 4 consecutive days of fasting. What happens to your REE? This is this middle line here. That's the resting energy expenditure. It doesn't go down. It goes up. You're burning more energy than you did.
The other thing that the body will do when it can't use fat for fuel is break down muscle into glucose through a process called gluconeogenesis. The body doesn't want to do this too much because it's not very smart to eat through something as important as muscle. But when it can't access its own stored energy, it's more likely to resort to this. This is why you'll experience more muscle loss on caloric restriction than if you ate nothing.
In MN36, the Buddha said, "Suppose I were to take only a little food at a time. Simply from my eating so little, my limbs became like the joint segment of vine stems or bamboo stems. My backside became like a camel's hoof. My spine stood out like a string of beads." When the Buddha regained his health, he fasted for 49 days. He did not eat nor drink during those 7 weeks. He was much healthier.
When you are fasting, human growth hormone is released. As the name implies, human growth hormone is an anabolic hormone, a hormone conducive to growth. That is, human growth hormone is protecting your muscles from breaking down. The study I referred to earlier about subjects undergoing an 84-hour fast shows that growth hormone rises significantly after the second day of fasting. As mentioned earlier, you should enter ketosis sometime within the first 3 days or so of fasting, and it depends on how much you are moving around and what your diet was like before starting the fast. The state of ketosis is a great indicator that your body is making good use of its stored body fat for energy. So, just to sum all this up, compared to a conventional calorie-restricted diet, fasting means you lose more weight in the form of fat, you keep more muscle, you have more energy, and you are less hungry. If proper weight loss is your goal, it might be better to eat nothing at all, rather than eating a conventional low-calorie diet.
I truly believe the body can heal from virtually anything if they fast long enough. Our youngest client fast was a 2-year-old who was born with a heart defect, fasted 5 days and was off medication for the first time in his life. We've had groups of blind people fast with us, every one of whom saw amazing improvements in their vision. We see people healing from arthritis, where old, there's nothing that medicine can do for them. We've seen 50 plus women with breast cancer. With 90% of these cases, the tumors have disappeared and the body was able to do it all by itself.
When your body remains in ketosis, you will never get sick again.
I've now gone more than 32 years without a single day sick.
When I told my mama that I had cured my 13 AIDS patient, she said, "They're gonna get you."
In the 1980s, Dr. Sebi ran a variety of ads stating that his institute cured AIDS, sickle cell, lupus, blindness, herpes, cancer, and other incurable diseases. The ad caught the eye of the Food and Drug Administration, and they sued Dr. Sebi for false advertisement and practicing without a license.
You defended yourself. Of course I did. I knew that I had sufficient evidence to prove my position.
During the trial, the judge requested Dr. Sebi provide one witness for each disease that he claimed he cured. Each witness had to bring documentation that showed they had a disease from one doctor and documentation that they no longer had the disease from a separate doctor. Dr. Sebi was able to provide over 70 witnesses. He was not taken to court to prove he cured AIDS, but many say he still did so within this trial because his witnesses presented verified medical documents proving they had been healed after they said they sought Sebi's help. After hours of questioning and testing Dr. Sebi's compounds, he was found not guilty because his products were essentially food and he was not diagnosing patients. Dr. Sebi took on the Attorney General and won.
The man known as Dr. Sebi claims to have found the cure for several life-threatening diseases, including AIDS. Too good to be true? Well, you be the judge. The lump in Myrtle Rick's left breast is gone.
I haven't had any symptoms or problems, anything.
Sabrina Peterson's son no longer disabled by sickle cell anemia.
He has a lot of energy. I have to make him rest.
Disease is cured by this man. His name is Dr. Sebi, but you won't find a medical degree hanging from his wall. Instead, a certificate of healing.
Dr. Sebi's work was well respected in entertainment circles, with clients including the late Lisa Left Eye Lopez, John Travolta, Eddie Murphy, Michael Jackson, and Nipsey Hussle.
I take his products for sure. I'm working on doing a documentary on the trial in 1985.
How did Lisa Left Eye Lopez discover Dr. Sebi?
You know, I just could not believe that there was not a cure for, I don't care what disease, especially AIDS. I could not believe it. And about a week later, I was in the studio talking to a producer friend of mine named Michael Anthony, and he just decided to tell me about a man that he knew who had the cure, and that man was Dr. Sebi.
She told me she was suffering with alcoholism and that she was smoking excessively, cigarettes, drinking and smoking. She asked me, what do I need to do to stay on the side of peace? I said, fast, do what Jesus did. She said, what did Jesus do? He fasted for 40 days and 40 nights.
Midway through her 40-day ordeal, an obviously gaunt Lisa spoke with MTV News.
I've been polluting my body for 30 years. 40 days is not a long time to me to fast. 40 days represents overcoming death. It's the number of days that Jesus fasted for, and I kind of feel like I'm on a journey sometimes. Don't really know quite where I'm headed.
At the ending of the fasting, she came to me. I heard the door opening at 2 o'clock in the morning. She said, I completed my fast this morning. She said, I'm going to make you famous. I said, how? Because I'm going to talk about you. Does everyone know you cure AIDS and cancer?
There's just a lot of people in the world who are suffering. They're sick. They're not happy. They're looking for answers. They don't know where to turn. Well, I know a man who's been curing AIDS since 1987. This guy has taught me a lot, and I need to share my knowledge, with the world.
Sebi also claimed to have healed Michael Jackson.
What I did for him was this. I gave Michael an intracellular chelation. He was full of a whole lot of drugs, the pharmaceutical drugs.
Yeah.
Couldn't sleep.
Yeah.
His nerve was shattered. So I began treating him.
Yeah.
And at the ending of the period, he was doing good and I left. I was with him from February until September. At the ending of September, I told him, I'm leaving. He said, don't leave me. I said, why? He said, I want you by my side, but I have a business to build.
He also said he helped Steven Seagal.
You know what it's like when Steven Seagal tells me to come to his house because he had a headache for 5 years. Well, I knew why the headache was in his head. It was removed in less than 10 minutes. He had the bottle and said, this bottle is powerful.
There's much controversy surrounding the death of Dr. Sebi. He was arrested along with his associate Pablo Medina for being in the possession of $37,000 in cash in an airport on a Caribbean island off the coast of Honduras. Authorities stated he was suspected of laundering money. His friends, family, and patients vehemently denied the charges. His family attempted to get him released from custody to no avail. He was held for over a month with no court date and bail was never set. After a month of being held in prison, he reportedly became sick with pneumonia and his condition quickly deteriorated. He passed away shortly after. Before Dr. Sebi entered prison, he was in optimal health. Reps from Dr. Sebi's institute stated limited information was given on the type of treatment he received. His autopsy was never released. Many people believe Dr. Sebi was murdered, while others strongly disagree.
But it's an ongoing investigation as to what happened. And no, it wasn't pneumonia.
Wow. What were his last words to you on that phone call when he was locked up?
I know someone's trying to kill me, so I refuse to eat the food in here. I'm not touching this food. That's why I'm fasting. Shit. A lot of this. I'm sorry, Mommy.
Some say he was assassinated because he could eventually disrupt the billion-dollar pharmacy industry.
Why do they kill all holistic doctors?
Messing up the medical industry.
You short-stopping their grind. Why do you get killed for hustling in front of a spot? You short-stopping the grind. And they check is billions. You got that get flipped for a couple $100,000.
Richer and more powerful than ever, underpinned by its influence networks, the pharmaceutical industry stands unchallenged in its ability to dictate government health policies.
The industry's power is comparable to that of a state.
The pharmaceutical industry is so rich and so powerful. Its lobbying affects Congress greatly, and also the FDA.
While the industry benefits hugely from publicly funded research, it manages to steer healthcare expenditure towards its most expensive medications.
No good idea goes forward without a pharmaceutical company partner. And yet, the current pricing is absolutely indefensible, in my opinion.
The pharmaceutical industry's main concern is now profit. Their concern is shareholders, not patients.
It's a very cruel business model.
The battle against the COVID-19 pandemic has further whet the pharma companies' appetite. Has the pharmaceutical industry's thirst for profit become a threat to our public health systems?
But the controversy didn't overshadow the voices of those proclaiming he healed them.
I was diagnosed first with colon cancer, then it had metastasized and become leukemia. And 3 months after that, I had been diagnosed with an astrocyte glioma brain tumor that was inoperable. At that point, the doctors in the U.S. gave me 6 months to live, 120 days after getting here. I no longer had leukemia. The headache stopped within 30 to 60 days. I lost a total of 102 pounds.
For over 25 years, True North Health Center, located in beautiful Santa Rosa, California, has been offering a unique and powerful approach to health restoration and the continued maintenance of optimum health. The many doctors affiliated with True North Health, including medical physicians, osteopaths, chiropractors, naturopaths, and psychologists, take the time to review a participant's past medical history, carefully listen to the full range of a participant's health concerns, perform a thorough physical examination, order appropriate laboratory and other diagnostic testing, and then formulate their recommendations.
I was on 9 different medications when I came. And through the process that I've been here for 3 weeks now, I'm going home on 1/2 of one medication. I was very hesitant when I came. I wasn't sure what it was going to do for me, but I came determined to do everything I could to get as well as I could. And this place has truly been a miracle for me.
One of the most unique aspects of True North Health is that we are one of the few facilities in the world to offer medically supervised, water-only, or juice fasting. Fasting can be an effective tool in helping individuals deal more rapidly with responsive conditions including high blood pressure, diabetes, and autoimmune disorders including lupus, rheumatoid arthritis, asthma, psoriasis, and many other conditions.
I had fibroids in my breast, and my mother and my sister both had breast cancer. The day the fibroids were discovered in my body and the tumor was discovered, I was told by the doctors that I needed to go in for surgery and immediately get these removed because we could not take a chance with a family history of cancer. And I did not want to do that. So I came here at True North, fasted for a month, and the fibroids just disappeared. I am also diabetic. And as of this moment, I can say that I'm not diabetic anymore because my sugars are in control. I've stopped taking the medication. The fasting sugar is at about 96 after breakfast, a whole bowl of fruit. So fasting to save your life, as the book's title is, I think is very, very true in my case.
It's given me back my life. In my 70s, I was sick. I thought, if this is how you feel when you get old, who wants to get old? I really understood that because I had been fighting fibromyalgia for 20 years. I had bad osteoarthritis. I just ached and hurt all over my body. On this diet, the inflammation doesn't occur in my body like it did from the bad diet. And I'm just free of aches and pains. And I'm 80 years old and I feel better than I did in my 70s or in my 60s or 50s. I can't remember feeling as good as I do now.
When I first heard about water fasting, I thought, no way am I doing this. But after doing some research and finding out about the benefits of this process, I changed my mind. First of all, I decided to find out the benefits of water fasting, and here's what I discovered. When your body can't get access to carbohydrates, its favorite source of energy, it starts to use stored fats. As a result, you can lose about 1 pound of fat every day. This makes water fasting one of the most effective short-term weight loss methods. This process also decreases inflammation in your body. Consequently, the recovery, repair, and healing of your body becomes faster and more efficient. Your blood sugar doesn't fluctuate so much. Water fasting decreases blood pressure and lowers your stress levels. It slows down the aging process. It lowers the risk of developing heart diseases. Water fasting can also help if you have digestive problems like irritable bowel, diarrhea, gas, gastritis, constipation, or loss of appetite. This sounded pretty good to me, but I still wanted to be sure that I wouldn't harm my body by quitting food altogether. People who are advised not to fast include people who have eating disorders, women who are pregnant or breastfeeding, people who are underweight, people with serious heart problems, people with type 1 diabetes, people who have uncontrolled migraines. Since I wasn't in any of these groups, I decided to give water fasting a go.
Hey guys, in this video we're going to talk about refeeding dangers after prolonged fasting, okay? So let's say you do a fast for 48, 72 hours, a week longer, and then you have your first meal, and you pig out and you have this huge meal. You could risk the danger to your heart and to your overall electrolytes, and you can actually faint, you can pass out, you can have even more serious side effects, because what happens is that you've got your insulin levels so low by doing fasting that you're going to eat and you're going to spike your insulin. It's going to go way up, okay? You're going to get this huge shift in electrolytes, which are electrically charged minerals like potassium, magnesium, phosphates, things like that. You're going to have this huge shift inside the cell because insulin acts as a key to allow these minerals to go inside the cell. The problem is you're going to create a severe deficiency of these minerals in the blood, in the plasma. Okay, so you're going to get all sorts of hyponatremia, that's low potassium in the blood, because all these minerals have shifted inside the cell, thus the intracellular shift. So in the body, you have this balance of minerals in the blood and inside the cell. So we get a lot more minerals that go inside the cell and a lot less minerals that go inside the blood, and then we get all these problems in the body. So what you should do as your first meal is eat something very small.
When you reintroduce your foods, go slowly and favor foods that are easy to digest. Chew your food well and eat a smaller meal. Start with a meal that's 500 calories or less. Another advice that I hear sometimes is to avoid combining fats and carbs in the same meal when you're breaking your fast, because that will cause a double insulin spike. After a fast, your body is ultra sensitive to insulin, and so you want to avoid combining fats and carbs and focus on one or the other when you are eating that first meal. You can have a glass of water with a teaspoon or 2 of Himalayan salt. You can make sure you break your fast with a cup of bone broth.
We usually recommend that people who are struggling a great deal with breaking their fasts have a tomato and cucumber salad with a little bit of parsley. Tomatoes and cucumbers are very easy for your system to digest, and parsley can help bulk up the stools if you're prone to diarrhea. The next thing, step 3, would be to pick up an animal protein source that's easier to digest. So if you're struggling with fatigue and bloating after eating a big steak, I hear you. It might be better to try to break your fast with either poultry or fish, something that's a little bit lighter to your system. Step number 4, don't eat raw leafy greens or raw cooked vegetables when you break your fast. Cook them. You can absolutely cook them in some fat like grass-fed butter, ghee, coconut oil, avocado oil, or extra virgin olive oil, but try to make sure they're cooked. The raw leafy greens and raw vegetables can cause the body to need a lot of digestive juices to break them down. It causes the body to do extra work. If we want to be easy on our systems and give them a chance to gradually wake up again after a fast, then it's just best that you eat your vegetables and leafy greens cooked. Step number 5, if you've had a lighter meal because you're not quite sure how your body is going to respond to breaking a fast and you're a little bit nervous, but you're still feeling hungry, then add in an avocado. The avocado has great fat and great fiber. So the fat will help you feel full. It will send a strong message, a strong signal to your brain that, hey, you are full, you are becoming satiated. But the fiber in that avocado will help make you feel full as well and will bulk up any loose stools that might occur. Don't have one big mega meal. You'll often find that you feel very tired and you'll have tummy distress if you do so.